He's on the run and your daddy's here. Beautiful, 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 beautiful boy. Beautiful, 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 beautiful boy. Before you go to sleep, say a little prayer. Every day in every way, it's getting better and better. Beautiful, 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 beautiful boy. Beautiful, 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 beautiful boy. Out on the ocean, the ships sail away. I can hardly wait to see you come of age. I guess we'll just have to be patient, 'cause it's a long way to go, and a long way to go. But in the meantime, before you cross the street, take my hand. Life is what happens to you while you're busy making other plans. Beautiful, 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 beautiful boy. Beautiful, 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 beautiful boy. Before you go to sleep, say a little prayer. Every day, in every way, it's getting better, better, better. Beautiful, 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 beautiful boy. 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 You're my beautiful, 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 beautiful boy. Gone, he's on the run and your daddy's here. Beautiful, 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 beautiful boy. Beautiful, 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 beautiful boy. Before you go to sleep, say a little prayer. Every day in every way, it's getting better and better. Beautiful, 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 beautiful boy. Beautiful, 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 beautiful boy. Out on the ocean, the ships sail away. I can come of age. I guess we'll just have to be patient, 'cause it's a long way to go, and a long way to go. But in the meantime, before you cross the street, take my hand. Life is what happens to you while you're busy making other plans. Beautiful, 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 beautiful boy. Beautiful, 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 beautiful boy. Before you go to sleep, say a little prayer. Every day, in every way, it's getting better, better, better. Beautiful, 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 oh. Beautiful, 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 oh. Beautiful, 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 beautiful boy. Beautiful, 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 beautiful boy.
Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the Parry family, we warmly welcome you to this service of life celebration for Matthew. My name is Michael Lynch, civil celebrant with Tobin Brothers Funerals. Could I ask those of you who have not had the opportunity of doing so to please be sure to sign the memorial pages in the foyer before you leave today. And I would ask those with mobile phones to please be sure that they're turned off or on silent mode for the duration of the service. Now, at the conclusion of the service, the pallbearers will accompany Matthew's coffin from this chapel through this side door to the waiting hearse. And at that time, we would ask all of you, if you're able to make your way out through the main doors or out through this door, and to form a guard of honour right up the driveway to the road through which the hearse will pass. And then from 4 o'clock this afternoon, Matt's family warmly invites you to join them for a wake. And that's to be held at the Harpenny Bridge pub and restaurant here in Frankston. Thank you.
Beautiful boy. Beautiful, 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 beautiful boy. Before you go to sleep, say a little prayer. Every day, in every way, it's getting better and better. Beautiful, 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 beautiful boy. Beautiful, 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 beautiful boy.
Beautiful boy. That was a grieving mother's song for her son. To his mother Terry, Matthew was not only a beautiful boy, but a fine young man of 27 who had everything and everyone to live for. And to Terry, to Owen and Madeline, to Janelle, Jet, Eden, and to Bronwyn, we do extend our deepest sympathy and heartfelt condolences. Although Matthew's decision to take his leave of this world was totally unexpected, and as you can imagine, has come as a massive and as a devastating shock to his family, they do accept the fact that he had his demons, and that tragically he had reached the point where he felt he could no longer go on. His family says they bear Matty absolutely no reproachment for doing what he did, and they will always remember his last message to his brother Owen, in which he said, "The brightest flame always burns out the quickest." His family stressed that while they are devastated by Matthew's death, they really want the service to be an informal celebration of his life in words, in music, and in video. Matthew Parry meant so much to so many, as is obvious by the number of you here this afternoon, and the fact that some of the people here this afternoon have travelled from as far away as Scotland, Malaysia, and New Zealand to attend this service. To some he was known as Matty, or Wild Man. To others he was known as Hard Man, Hoon, Motorbike Pilot, and Burnout King. Those who knew Matt well will remember him as a fiery, out-there larrikin and a man who absolutely oozed charisma. He was a fearless daredevil who could be as loving and as affectionate as he could be stubborn and argumentative. The son of Terry and Michael Matthew Marshall Parry was born on the 7th of October, 1980. Terry says Matt was an angelic kid who loved his kindergarten and school days, but who point blank refused to say sorry. During his growing up years, Terry and her good friend Corinne frequently took their kids on camping and fishing trips to such places as Lakola and Wahala. And Terry well remembers that it was on one of those trips that Matthew watched in absolutely amazement, and presumably a little bit of horror as well, as a bikie ate a huntsman's spider. Every summer would find Matthew and his family staying at the holiday house at Merrick's and spending most of their days in the surf. And he always enjoyed the times that he spent with Phil and Paul on the farm at Coligny. Matthew's childhood ambition, folks, was to be an Air Force pilot, but asthma put paid to that. During his teenage years, however, he decided that he wanted to run his own business, and as you know, he well and truly achieved that goal. He became a skilled solid plasterer who successfully operated his own company, Renderlink. But it was never ever a case of all work and no play for Matthew, by any stretch of the imagination. You obviously know that. Sport, of course, was a very big thing for him. He was a great soccer and tennis player. He was a talented gymnast, I'm told, who also enjoyed sailing and surfing, trail bike riding, playing pool, playing cards, and playing darts. He rode horses, he enjoyed swimming, and he won several karaoke competitions, championships, competitions, whatever. And of course his great passion was for V8s, well, he loved his ute and V8 cars, some of which I'm told that he actually drove or test drove on the speed trials out at Calder Raceway. And of course he was also a very keen photographer who was always taking photos when he was out with other people, and quite a lot of these photos you'll see throughout the course of this afternoon. Matt also loved his dogs. First there was Barney, the Manchester Terrier, which was with the family, I'm told, for about 17 years. And then just 6 months ago, he bought the dog of his dreams, an American Staffy that he named Cato. Matthew's love of the ladies is absolutely legendary. And I'm also told that where the ladies were concerned, he had absolutely no inhibitions whatever. He once said to his mum, "Other people can be a lover or a warrior, but I'm a lover and a warrior." And we're also told, folks, that in his womanizing days, one of his very typical lines to any girl he fancied in the pub was, "I suppose a shag is out of the question." But all that changed on New Year's Eve 2003 at the Rosebud Hotel. It was there that Matthew met Janelle. She says he was totally unlike anyone she had met, had known, or loved before. He was attractive and exuded confidence, she said, and she was impressed by the way in which he took ownership of the dance floor. But Janelle says the most lasting memory of her 3 years with Matthew will be that there was so much to love about him, especially his absolute love and adoration of their twin children, Eden Grace and Jet Riley, who were born in September 2005. Janelle says they will always be Matt's loving prince and princess, and he will always be their king. In fact, he loved them so much that he had their names tattooed on each of his arms. Matthew was a one-eyed Collingwood supporter, as many of you would know, and perhaps what you don't know is that he taught Eden and Jet to say, "Go Pies!" And because their mum was a Melbourne supporter, he encouraged the kids to say, "Demons are bad." Matthew, you'll recall, also had a great sense of style, and he was always impeccably dressed. And in fact, according to his mum, he took longer in the bathroom than Janelle did. Matthew wasn't a bloke who pulled punches. Things were either black or white. He said what he thought and certainly called a spade or a shovel. For example, he would say to someone whose intelligence he considered questionable, I like to engage in an intellectual battle, but I refuse to fight an unarmed man. About a year ago, Matthew met Bronwyn on the internet, and as a result of that MySpace meeting, they got together when she came over here from Perth. Bronwyn says her standout memory of Matty was his outgoing personality and love of life, and how enthusiastically he took to going scuba diving with her. She says he was an extremely loving, caring, considerate person who was enormously proud of his 2 children who knew how much they loved him. But now, ladies and gentlemen, to some personal tributes, the first of which this afternoon is from Matthew's mum, Terry. Thanks.
Hi everyone, thank you all for coming. This is a celebration of Matthew's life. It's not a funeral, it's a celebration. We started off Scottish, but we're going to end Irish, I can tell you. Oh, yeah. I want to thank you all for the love and the friendship that you all gave him. I want to especially thank Jess and Daniel for the extra time that they gave us that meant that we could all see him, kiss him, hug him and say goodbye. I will, for the rest of my life, be grateful to you for that. I want to thank Janelle for my beautiful grandchildren, who I just love. Thank you, Janelle. I want to thank Madeline for my other beautiful granddaughter, Sienna, who Matthew got to see, and really, that meant a lot to him, to see her. Thank you, Bron, for the happy times that you had, those meals you cooked for him. He loved that. He really loved that. Your chicken and grapes. Just so proud of that. Thank you, Benny. Where are you? Thank you, Benny, for being the best mate that anyone could have. Benny's put his own business on hold and has been working on Matty's jobs so that Matty's reputation stays where it is. Thank you very much for that, Benny. Thank you, everyone in the family, Corinne, all the things we did with him, Paul on the farm, Glenn with the karaoke. Where are you, Glenn? Thanks for the karaoke, Glenn. Yeah, thank you. That. And everybody else who did special things with Matthew. There are people here that I don't know that had special things with Matthew. So please, all of you, stay in touch with us. Please keep the memory of Matthew alive for the twins. We want to talk about him all the time. We want to watch movies of him, and we want the twins to remember him. They'll remember things that they didn't know simply because we'll talk about it and we'll show them. Okay? Now, everybody is welcome at Harpenny's. Anybody, and I mean anybody, wants to have a shot to say goodbye to Matt. But don't drink drive. And I mean that. Don't make me smack you. Okay? I will. All right? Okay? And finally, thank you to my magnificent Lionheart. My wonderful son, Owen, whose love is keeping us all going.
Thank you, Jerry. Family was so important to Matthew, and the next tribute, ladies and gentlemen, is from Matthew's cousin, Sarah Palmer. Thank you, Sarah.
No, it's okay. I think my only concern was just getting a bit high-pitched and a bit teary, but we'll try and get through it. I'd be kidding myself to think I could condense Matthew, or who Matthew was and what he meant to all of us, down to a few minutes. It's not easy to think what should be included in a you-googly. To a person so vibrant and larger than life. Lucky for me, Matthew was a person who left such an impression on everyone here. It makes my job a little easier. He had an innate ability to walk into a room and engage anyone and everyone telling jokes, stories of most recent cheeky debauchery, making fun of people, and more importantly, making fun of himself. It's a cliche, but it's appropriate. He was the life of the party. So comfortable being centre stage, his laugh was completely contagious. He could always manage to drag you out for a night on the town, his reasoning being, I can't deny the people what they want, and that's me. Drinking and laughing, watching him dance up a storm, spreading himself around to as many people as possible, I'm thankful for the countless nights I was able to take part in. Like being his designated taxi for the night and driving on the freeway at about 100 k's, trying to focus while holding a firm grip of his leg as he swung out of my sunroof singing Cyndi Lauper, Girls Just Want to Have Fun. Karaoke was Matty's weapon of choice. Anyone brave enough to endure singing with Matt knew exactly who was singing back up that night. And if they didn't, it wouldn't take long before they did. He was one of the bravest people I've ever known, although that quality certainly didn't make him the smartest decision maker. He was always first to push the boundaries, try something new, or jump off something. Playing Batman with Daniel in the backyard, the best way to try and fly was from off the roof. Daniel followed. Surprisingly, it wasn't Matthew who broke a bone that time. On Christmas Day, it was Matt that discovered the best way to jump into the pool was from off the roof. His love of cars, bikes, and all things fast kept us with more than our quota of broken bones and war wound stories from Matthew. You could try warning him, but it wasn't likely to stop. I recall sitting on Dad's balcony in Malaysia before we headed to Thailand, having a smoke while he chatted to me about being a daddy, and cutting back on his death-defying acts. 7 days later, we were back on that same balcony. Matt was accompanied with bandages, gravel rash, and a shitty pair of crutches. He truly was an unstoppable force of nature, and it makes it very difficult not to stand with him in the front line when there was trouble brewing. Whether you asked him to be there, even wanted him or not, he was there. His friends are a true testament to the strong sense of honour and loyalty he lived by, and their help and involvement during not only this difficult time, but also throughout his life means more than can be expressed by our family. And we thank them from the bottom of our hearts. I left the really hard part last. He was a great daddy, and it was truly a gift to see him watching his beautiful children grow so quickly into mini adults before his eyes. He was loving, tenacious, hilarious, stubborn and daring, and I wouldn't change one bit of him. Although the path of his passing has cast somewhat of a shadow over a bright light, I speak for the entire family when I ask you not to mourn his death, rather celebrate his life. The times you've shared and the memories that are left will remain yours to keep. A part of him you will always have.
Well done, Sarah. Well, they say that to have friends you must first be one, folks, and Matt obviously had heaps. Look around you. But it's from Ben Poole, his best mate, we'll hear from now. Thank you, Ben. Okay, he's not going to speak. All right, okay. But his thoughts are most certainly with you and the family. Okay. Memories like those have been shared so far this afternoon, and like those, some of which you've seen on the screen, those that have been shared by Terry and by Sarah, I think remind us, ladies and gentlemen, that memories really are one of the greatest gifts in this life, because they can remind us not only of a time and a place, but so very often they can recreate a feeling or an emotion, and those inerasable memories become indelible handprints on all of our hearts. The reaction of most people to Matthew's sudden, unexpected passing will have been too young, too soon. And while that can't be denied, what is also very, very true is that in the end, it's not the years in your life that count. It's the life in your years. And as we've heard, Matthew packed a lot of living into his 27 years. Everyone who knew him would have been well aware of just how close he was to his brother Owen, and he will now share with you some of his fondest memories. Thanks.
Hi everyone. I didn't want to go crazy and write a big speech because they never go to plan, and Matt was kind of fly by the seat of your pants, so I'm going to sort of go with this similar thing. What a guy. What a guy. Yeah. Do you know what? I loved him his whole life and protected him his whole life. I couldn't this time, but I loved him even when he used to get pulled over by the police and say it was me. Which he did all the time. The guy could dance. Anyone here's seen him dance, because he never stopped dancing. He was always chucking a jig here and there. I just loved him a lot, you know. We did everything together our whole lives, and I don't know how I'm going to continue with my life without him in it, but I'm going to do it as if he was watching me, and I'm going to do it with pride that I was once, you know, a big part of his life. Well, the whole part of his life, actually. Look, Matthew's not actually religious, but there is a prayer in a movie. He's one of his very favourite movies, and it's called Boondock Saints. And there's a prayer in it that he just loved, and I feel if anyone's going to read a prayer for him, this should be it. So it's, and shepherds we shall be, for thee, my Lord, for thee. Power hath descended forth from thy hand. Our feet may swiftly carry out thy commands. So we shall flow a river forth to thee, and teeming with souls shall it ever be. In nomine Patri et Filii et Spiritus Sancti. Amen. I just want to remind people of a couple of times, I want people to smile for Matt. I want them to laugh when they think of him. So once driving through Frankston in our cars side by side on a 40-degree night, which we did quite often, he messaged me while he was driving, and my phone beeped, and it said, "I think you're going to be an uncle." I waved him on, and we went to a car park, and we sat there together, and we talked about it, and he talked about his fears, and he talked about what he would want, and ultimately after that he decided that he really did want that, and he did have two really, really beautiful kids, and they are just so smart and so special. I want my daughter to play with them all the time, and sadly Matthew never got to see that. I heard from someone, I think it was Janelle, telling the story that when Matthew was in and they did the ultrasound, he said, "Oh, I can see your kidneys." It wasn't kidneys. It was twins. Okay. Everyone who knows both of us knows that neither of us will ever find a worthy opponent more than each other. We have had so many fights, and not even the police could break it up half the time. But one time we fought side by side, and I do want to tell this story, and a lot of the Scottish boys that were friends of Matt were there. We're in Mornington at a pub next to the bay, and a guy raised his hand to Janelle, so I headbutt him. Anyway, it ended up outside. They were all outside. There's about 9 guys, and we walked out with everyone behind us, and ended up just us taking all these guys on. And I ended up on the ground wrestling with the guy, and they all ran over to kick into me. And my little brother threw himself across me, and he took every kick. I love him for that. And he sat there and he was laughing about it afterwards, saying, see, I did it for you. I threw myself across you. He said, that makes up for the time that I accidentally let everyone jump on you and I didn't save you. Now, when my daughter was born, I was actually having a bit of a regular tiff with Matthew, and we weren't talking, and I rang him and I said, "Matt, it's time." And by lunchtime, or shortly after that day, he was in Adelaide. And I walked out of that room when my daughter was born, and my brother was there crying. I have many photos of him holding her, and he was just so proud. I'm glad that he got to see her. And he even said to me in his note at the end that he couldn't be prouder of her. He asked me... He was very proud of me because I changed my life, and I'm glad that he saw that. He asked me to fly the flag in his note for him. I want everyone to do that. I don't want people to cry. I don't want people to be sad, and I don't want people to say this is a tragedy. I want people to always talk about Matt. I want people to tell a story to anybody. Be down the pub and say, "There was this bloke, you wouldn't believe it." I want his name to live on forever. Like they say in that movie Troy, which isn't that great a movie, but they said in it, you can live old and have grandchildren, and you can be loved and you can be respected, but one day when your children's children and their children pass on, you will be forgotten. But if you die young, your name will live forever. And that's what I want for Matthew. So I wrote a poem in the paper, and I won't drag this on too much. So what I want to do is read this again, because I feel it's just, I couldn't write another one. So, beautiful little brother, I don't want to say goodbye. You're a man so unbreakable, we thought you would never die. I don't understand you wanting to leave, but I will respect your choice. I will never stop hurting, never stop missing, never stop needing to hear your voice. Maddie, I will honour you by living as if you're watching me, and I'll do good, I'll do you proud. Fly away, beautiful brother, for you are free. Now, after this there is a wake at Harpenny, and this last party is on Matt. We've bought plenty enough Jameson for everybody here to have a shot. We've got a big picture of him up, and I want everybody to go up and say whatever they feel, whether it be in their heads or out loud or anything, and have their shot, cheers to him, and then put their shot glass upside down in front of it. And by the end of the night, there will be too many to count. So we also will be handing out, and this is something that I really wanted to help his name live on. We have had 100 t-shirts printed up in pink, which he said were salmon. These t-shirts say Matthew's favourite slogan, and they are tongues out, arms pumping. I've put the one-man army written underneath it, and on the back in brackets it says, it's not pink, it's salmon. So everybody, I'd like to have a t-shirt, maybe couples would get one, because we want to spread it around and have everyone have it as well. There's one last thing that my brother never got, although in small times he probably has, but I want to honour Matt, because I know that he's up there and he's listening and he's watching, and I want everybody here to give him a fucking standing ovation. Everybody get up, come on! Matt! And his favourite song.
those now to come forward, please. Could pull those come forward, and would everyone else assemble outside in order to form a guard of honour for Matthew's farewell.
to make one.